Gentlemen, please stand for the arrival of the Prime Minister. You may be seated. Good morning, everyone. This is the part where you say good morning in your most vibrant voices. Good morning, everyone. Aww, I guess I'll take that. All right, there is a popular soca song by a Trinidadian artist, Michelle Montano. He was here for the soca season last time. And he had a popular song called We Need a Ministry of Road. And you know what that song was about? Okay, so it's about road marches, but I thought it was appropriate to mention it because if there was ever such a thing as a Ministry of Road, it is the Ministry of Economic Growth and Infrastructure Development. Do you agree with me? Yes. Okay, wonderful. This morning, my name is Kimberly McLeod, by the way, and this morning I have the great privilege of taking us through our program. Let me first, of course, begin by acknowledging our Prime Minister, Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, the Honorable Robert Nesta Morgan, and I must also always mention that he is the Member of Parliament for North Central Clarendon, which is a constituency from which I originate. I want to recognize the Honorable Desmond Mackenzie, Minister of Local Government and Community Development, the Honorable Aubin Hill, Minister of Industry, Investment and Commerce, the Honorable Olivia Grange, Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport. I note our Cabinet Secretary is not present, but I will acknowledge her in her absence. Of course, Mrs. Arlene Williams, and you and I almost matched this morning, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Infrastructure Development, CTD, Ms. Joaquin Murray, representing Ambassador Rocky Mead, Permanent Secretary here in the Office of the Prime Minister, Mr. Everton Hunter, Chief Executive Officer of the National Works Agency, Mr. Varden Downer, Senior Director, National Works Agency, and other members of the NWA team, Mr. Dangran B., Country Manager, China Harbor Engineering Company, and we had a quick little conversation just this morning because I always like to remind people that I lived in China for 1 year. Stakeholders, representatives of public and private sector bodies, and of course the MEGID team, members of the media and Jamaicans at home and abroad, and those of us who are watching us online. And I just saw a member of the OPM team said that I should give a special acknowledgement to our OPM team, so I'll use this opportunity to acknowledge our OPM team who do such a wonderful job of covering the work of the Prime Minister. And of course, we assist various ministries as well. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you. It is an absolute pleasure to welcome you to the Office of the Prime Minister for the launch of the Spark Main Road Program. Consultations across 63 constituencies, $45 billion invested, 610 roads selected. This is a very big deal. Thank you for joining us as we mark another important milestone in Jamaica's journey of growth and national development. We begin, as we do with all programs, with the national anthem, so I invite you to stand for the playing of our national anthem. I invite you to remain standing as Reverend Shawin Reynolds, of the pastor of Chapel of Christ, Our Redeemer AME Church, gives prayer this morning.
Morning, everyone. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come before you with grateful hearts, acknowledging that every good and perfect gift comes from you. We thank you for this day and for the opportunity to gather for this launch of the Spark Main Road program. Lord, we thank you for your blessings on our nation with vision, resources, and partnership that make projects like these possible. As we embark on this next phase of development, we ask for your divine guidance over every plan, every decision, and every hand that will contribute to this work. We pray for your wisdom upon our Prime Minister, members of his cabinet, members of Parliament, government officials, engineers, contractors, technical team, and all stakeholders involved. Grant them the integrity, sound judgment, and steadfast commitment to serve the people of Jamaica with excellence. Father, we ask for your protection over every worker on each construction site. Keep them safe from harm and accident. Strengthen them physically and mentally, spiritually, as they carry out their duty. May these improved roads serve as pathway for greater opportunities, economic growth, safe travel, stronger communities, and a better quality of life for all Jamaicans. May this program foster hope, create employment, stimulate investment, and contribute to the continuous growth and progress of our beloved nation. Lord, help us to be faithful stewards of the infrastructures that is built. Inspire in every citizen a sense of pride and responsibility, unity as we work together for the development of Jamaica. As this ceremony begins, may your presence be among us. Let everything that is said and done today bring honor to you and promote the welfare of our country. May this project be completed successfully, on time, and to the highest standard, and bring lasting benefits to a great generation to come. We entrust this program and our nation into your hands, confidently knowing that you will do all things that are possible. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Thank you ever so much, Reverend Reynolds. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be moving smoothly through the program. And it is now my great pleasure to invite a public servant. It's always my pleasure to invite her to the podium, who speaks with so much conviction and who ensures that government projects are translated from policy to action. Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Infrastructure Development, Mrs. Arlene Williams.
Thank you so much, Madam MacLeod. It is indeed a very good day for us to be here, and so I welcome you very, very warmly. Thank you, Pastor, for that prayer. Indeed, I believe in prayer, and I think we all do. Protocol was established, so allow me just to mention our Prime Minister, Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, who is the Prime Minister and Minister of Economic Growth and Infrastructure Development, Honorable Robert Morgan, Minister with responsibility for works. It's very good to see our cabinet ministers here. Welcome. So very, very good to see you. And of course, we have Mr. Vard E.G. Hunter from the National Works Agency, Mr. Varden Donner, who will make a presentation this morning. The reps from the China Harbor Engineering Company. And of course, I want to acknowledge our students. Where are they? From the universities. Yes, welcome. You're valuable partners. Members of the media, of course, and all of you, I welcome you very, very warmly. I think the chairman has done an excellent job at welcoming you, but I want to add my very own welcome. We do not take your presence here this morning for granted. It is my distinct pleasure to welcome you to the launch of the Spark Main Roads component, one of the government of Jamaica's most significant investments in modernizing our transport infrastructure and strengthening the foundation for sustained economic growth. The true measure of government is not simply the policies developed, but the results delivered for its people. Today, we mark another important step in delivering infrastructure that improves lives, strengthens communities, and expands opportunity. Think about the economic and social benefits that roads provide. They connect communities, support businesses, move agricultural produce to market, facilitate tourism, improve access to schools and healthcare, and keep families connected. When roads deteriorate, the consequences extend beyond the traveling public. Businesses face higher costs, productivity declines, and economic opportunities are constrained. That is why the Spark Main Roads component is so important. Through this initiative, approximately 170 kilometers, this is the main road parts now, of Jamaica's primary road network will be rehabilitated and upgraded. These are vital transportation corridors that serve thousands of motorists daily and support commerce, investment, and national development. The work extends well beyond resurfacing. They include not only the reconstruction of severely deteriorated sections, but also drainage improvements, slope stabilization, rehabilitation of retaining walls, upgraded road markings and signage, pedestrian safety enhancements, and improvements to bridges and culverts where required. Importantly, resilience is built into every aspect of the program. As Jamaica experiences more frequent and intense weather events, our infrastructure must be designed not only to meet today's needs, but to withstand tomorrow's challenges. Spark reflects our commitment to building infrastructure that is stronger, safer, and more resilient. Spark is a strategic investment that supports economic growth and improves the quality of life for all Jamaicans. The benefits are already being felt and will continue to be felt across the country through better connectivity, safer roads, improved access to commercial centers, agricultural districts, tourism destinations, and essential public services, while reducing travel times and vehicle operating costs. And I want to just pause here to tell a little story. Recently, I was traveling to a function, and I recall, I was reflecting on what PM had said about the elderly and how he was feeling very empathetic towards them. For example, when they fell into the potholes or things like that, and the jerks. And so while I'm not old by any means, we fell into a pothole while I was on that journey, and I was suffering from a crick in my neck, and I tell you the truth, I bawled out because it was so painful. And the driver was even apologizing to me for going into the pothole. But admittedly, we are experiencing less and less potholes, not true? I wanted to say yes because it's true. And so, delivering a program of this scale requires strong partnerships. And so I therefore acknowledge the contractors, led by principal contractor China Harbour Engineering Company, National Works Agency, the consultants or utility providers, as well as the many technical professionals whose expertise and commitment have brought us to this important milestone. I also want to thank in advance the communities and road users who will be affected during the construction. We recognize that these improvements will bring temporary inconvenience, and the inconvenience will be temporary. But your patience and cooperation will help to deliver infrastructure that will benefit Jamaicans for decades to come. Ladies and gentlemen, the Spark Main Roads component demonstrates the government's vision of infrastructure as a catalyst for national development. Infrastructure is ultimately about people. Every road we improve shortens a journey, strengthens a business, connects a community, and creates new opportunities. That is the true value of the investment we launched today. And so, as Minister Morgan, as you work tirelessly to roll out this very important journey in the lives of the Jamaican people, and I hope we're taking notes and we're documenting the improvements that our road network, are bringing to our people. May we remain very grateful. May we remain steadfast. As comedian, motivational speaker, and author Steve Harvey famously stated, the road to success is always under construction. Therefore, as we officially launch this important initiative, let us continue to work together with purpose, professionalism, and partnership to build the infrastructure that serves today's needs while preparing Jamaica for tomorrow's opportunities. Thank you all for joining us today. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Permanent Secretary. And as she says, roads equal productivity, efficiency, ease, convenience. And so we look forward to that, even though we understand that there will be some inconveniences along the way. But the road to success is always under construction. At this time, I have the pleasure of inviting a minister who is totally devoted to delivering better quality of roads, better infrastructure to our country, Minister Robert Nesta Morgan.
Thank you very much to my constituent, who does not give me a break. She does call and question about the water on the road, so I don't get away. And I can't hide from her because she works at the office of the Prime Minister. Good morning, everyone. Prime Minister colleagues, distinguished guests, members of the media, fellow Jamaicans, members of the cabinet, all the relevant persons here, I would like to adopt the protocols that were already observed. Thank you very much for being here this morning. I recently saw a comment on social media. The person said, yes, Spark roads are being done, but we cannot drive on Spark roads alone. And it may have been intended as a criticism, but I found it an important acknowledgement that Jamaicans are seeing that Spark roads are being done. Other comments also acknowledge the difference in quality between Spark roads and previous road infrastructure programs. And by their own admission, numerous members of the public are asking the question, why is our road not on the Spark program? That is something for us as a government, as technocrats, as stakeholders, to be proud of, that the government has a program that so many Jamaicans are asking, when is this program coming to my community? And that is precisely why we're here today. The roads leading to our schools, our hospitals, our town centers, our markets, plazas, government services, transport hundreds of thousands of people and facilitates billions of dollars of economic activity. They are not simply surfaces that we travel on. They are arteries through which the Jamaican economy moves. Every day, approximately 12,000 trips are made along Residils Road, 45,000 trips on Washington Boulevard, more than 38,000 on Oxford Road, approximately 33,000 on Port Henderson Road, and then you have about 23,000 traveling between Old Harbour in St. Catherine and Freetown on the border with Clarendon. Those 5 corridors alone account for 150,000 trips. And I'm not going to extrapolate how many people are in those vehicles. These are workers trying to reach their jobs, students traveling to schools, patients seeking health care, businesses, Minister Hill, transporting goods, and families carrying out their ordinary activities in life. When the Prime Minister launched Spark, his launch was a demonstration of the vision of infrastructure development for this government, a transformation as to how we would be building roads for the future for the benefit of the people. And today, at this launch, it's a further demonstration that we put these people, the people of Jamaica, at the forefront of our minds in designing the roads of the future. So Spark is a $45 billion infrastructure program. And for the first time in Jamaica's history, over 300 community roads are now in the process of being constructed. I have to repeat it over and over again, Minister Grange. There's never been a time in Jamaica's history that the government has attempted to rehabilitate 300 roads in the span of 2 years. And I think that is something we should congratulate the government and the people of Jamaica for. 37 main roads have been identified and are going to be publicly presented today as the priority roads for our main road program. In addition, or including, are 2 major grade separated interventions that will address critical congestion points in the corporate area. And I'll allow the Prime Minister and Mr. Downer to give you more details on those 2 major projects in the main road program. But publishing these roads in itself is an important reform because it increases transparency. And another peculiarity about the Spark program is that for the first time in the history of Jamaica, the government went to the people and asked them, which community roads are most important to you that you would like to fix? And we had consultations before I was Minister with responsibility for works, where the SDC, through the Ministry of Local Government, and the Constituency Development Unit here at the Office of the Prime Minister, the CDF Constituency Development Fund, went into communities, engaged stakeholders from both sides of the political aisle, and stakeholders who are not interested in politics, business people, civic groups, your neighborhood watch, the police, and said to them, tell us, how would you want your tax dollars to be spent in your community? And we came up with 630 roads. We are not going to be able to fix 630 roads under Spark 1, which is why the Prime Minister has instructed us at the National Works Agency and the Ministry of Works through the Ministry of Economic Growth and Infrastructure Development to begin the process of planning for Spark 2. This transparency allows the media and the country to have a wider ability to track the implementation of the investment that we're making. It gives Jamaicans the information necessary to measure how their $45 billion is being invested. The program, however, should not just be judged by mere announcements, contracts, or work orders. It must be judged by completed works and the improvements we have made to the infrastructure of the country. As of June, as I said before, over 300 roads have been placed in Spark work orders, and I want to thank the enterprise contractor for being here, China Harbour Engineering Company, as they have been leading, along with their local subcontractors, local subcontractors are an important part of the Spark program, and over 25 of them are currently working with the main contractor. I want to say before I go, Spark is not a patching program. And I'm repeating it again. If repeating it again means I can repeat it again and again and again. My English teacher would not be proud of that statement. Spark is not a patching program. It's a total rehabilitation of our road infrastructure. It would have been very easy, especially coming up to an election, for the government to say, let us use this money and patch every road in Jamaica. And a lot of people would have been happy with that decision. But would that decision have given the people value for money? Would it have been a proper investment in the future development of Jamaica? We do not think so. The program will address culverts, retaining structures, sidewalks, road markings, and safety features. And one of the important aspects of the program that I'm very happy about, and we did it on Grange Lane, Permanent Secretary, where we are now including features on our roads to assist the differently abled members of our community. Tactile responsiveness, so the person who is visually impaired can get a response from the road when they reach at a pedestrian crossing, when they are reaching a challenging intersection. These things have not really been done in Jamaica before, and that is now a core part of the Spark Main Road program. You have all been given the Spark Handbook. In it, you will see very important information about how the program is structured. You will also see a list of the allocations for community roads that have been made to each constituency across the island. You will also see a list of some of the main roads that will be repaired over the next 12 months or will be rehabilitated over the next 12 months under the Spark Main Road program. I'm asking you not to keep the Spark booklet as a secret. Please share the information with everyone that you have the opportunity to share with. The difference between a quick fix and an enduring investment is the Spark program, and I want to thank the contractors, the National Works Agency, for carrying out the clear mandate that has been given to them by the government to ensure that we have properly supervised and well-built roads. Jamaican people must receive value for every dollar spent. And while the comment on social media has elicited a response from me, Jamaicans and the government should not take for granted the significant work that we have done under the Spark program. So today, as we launch the Spark Main Road program, we must reinforce our commitment that Spark roads will not merely look good when they are completed, but they will be properly constructed, properly supervised, and built to last. I just want to, before I go, thank the partnership of the Ministry of Local Government, our various cabinet members who have kept us on our toes by being responsive in the challenges with the Spark as we continue to improve the program. Members of the opposition have also been very responsive in highlighting challenges and also commending us on some of the work that we have done. The engineers, we divided the Spark program into several sections, and one of the sections was an independent supervisory portion where the contractor who is building the road is not the same person who is approving and supervising. We want to thank the consultants as well, the members of staff of the National Works Agency, the leadership of the National Works Agency, Mr. Down and Mr. Hunter, are here. The people of Jamaica who have been steadfast under the challenging circumstances, and also the Prime Minister for his vision in leading us down this path. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Minister Morgan, for that comprehensive presentation. And I'm sure we're all very excited to learn that the roads will be accommodating all Jamaicans. So it's inclusive, comprehensive, thoughtful, modern, forward-looking development of our national infrastructure, particularly our roads. At this time, I invite Mr. Varden Downer to deliver a presentation.
Thank you, Madam MC, Most Honorable Prime Minister, Minister Morgan, Cabinet Ministers, ladies and gentlemen, Permanent Secretary. I have the task this morning of presenting to you the update, first of all, on our Spark program, focusing on the local and community roads where we are now, and then I will get into the main road component. So, as you can see on your screen, but let me just give you a summary as to what I will pretty much cover. We will look at a summary of the program in respect of the local and community roads, the costs associated with it, the scope and structure, and of course the progress as mentioned earlier. And then afterwards we'll get into the details for the main road. So our Spark program is actually a $45 billion program where the contract was signed with the contractor for approximately $36 billion. And with that, we also have $5 billion that treats with our water line, as the new thrust from the government is to look at integrated infrastructure. So we're not putting down roads and then have our sister agency, the NWC, who can sometimes be annoying. They're not here, right? To dig up the roads, to repair the pipes, which is very necessary. So what we have done is decide to partner and ensure that when we do our roads, waterline is actually a part of it. If there's SOA that is actually necessary, we will in fact do the improvement on that as well. So our employer for the program is the Ministry of Economic Growth and Infrastructure Development, led by our Permanent Secretary, and also the executing agency being the National Works Agency. The contractor is China Harbour Engineering, and with the National Works Agency, we also have our team of consultants who assist us with boots on the ground to ensure that the contractor does what he's supposed to do. So the program at a glance, ladies and gentlemen, is we cover all 14 parishes, and the program is divided into 4 packages. We're covering approximately 394 roads. At this point in time, which is a year in the program, we have actually paved some 110 roads. And the certified amount, as is reflected there, 9.7 billion, which is effectively reflecting 27% progress. You'll recall that late last year we were challenged with Hurricane Melissa, and that took some time out of the progress on the program. So package 1 for information is covering Kingston, St. Andrew, and St. Thomas. There are 112 roads under the program for which we have paved 32. Package 2, St. Catherine and Clarendon, 105 roads for which we have paved 35. Package 3, 79 roads, which covers Manchester, St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, and Hanover. And we have paved 18 of 79 roads. And package 4, Portland, St. Mary, St. Anne, Trelawney, and St. James, 98 roads for which we have paved approximately 25. I did mention these before, so I'll just skip this slide in the interest of time. 394 roads, 363 for local and community roads, and 31 there that has been given to the contractor at this point in time. Just for clarity, because as Minister Morgan says, there are 37 main roads being targeted and 110 roads there being paved. So just for clarity for that. What we're showing you here are some pictures that actually depicts before and after for the roads that are under construction. As you can see there, Bustamante Highway before and after, Orange Grove Road before and after. We also have community roads there in package 3 and package 4, before and after photograph. And the distinction between the before and after is so marked. These are actually pictures showing upgrading, especially for the drainage system. But let's get a little bit more detail. The Harty Drive, as you can see there, which is actually in St. Andrew Eastern, before and after photographs. Bustamante Highway, I was mentioned before, in Kingston Western, before and after photograph. Also Bellevue Avenue, East Kingston and Port Royal, before and after. It's always interesting to look at the before and after photograph because sometimes we forgot what the situation looked like before. St. Catharines South Central, before and after for Homestead Boulevard. This is Gravel Hill Road in Clarendon, South Western, before and after. That's a major drainage improvement there. Inglewood Drive in Clarendon Central, before and after. With Inglewood? Yes, I'll come back to that. And of course, Trial in St. Elizabeth, Southeastern, before and after. As Minister Morgan asked me to remind us about Inglewood. Inglewood was a very, very difficult road to get done. We had a lot of drainage issues. There were pipeline issues because majority of the challenges we have, ladies and gentlemen, on the local roads, which the main roads will also have, is the whole question of old pipelines and trying to rebuild the road in what we call brownfield. Persons have to live, operate businesses, walking through, children going to school on the roads. And when we go in and we will do the excavation works, pipes begin to leak. When the rain falls, the place is just mud. It's very, very difficult. So I want to pause here to thank the residents for their patience. For most of these roads that we have been through, it has been very, very difficult for those residents within the communities. But we ask for your continued patience because when we get in and we do the ripping up of the road for its construction and we have to contend with some of the old pipelines that are over 50 years old and trying to put in new pipelines, we have to maintain the existing pipelines because persons have to be served by the Water Commission through those pipelines. And as we try to do so and leaks develop, pipes have to shut down, repairs have to be done. When it rains, the place is just a pool of mud. It becomes extremely difficult. In this particular case of Inglewood Drive, the residents consistently complain about it, but we are actually at the end now, and I'm sure that they will enjoy the road for the next several years. Moving on, Claremont in Hanover Eastern. As you can see what the road looked like before and what it is now, a marked difference. And Canewood Road, which is in Portland Western. And just to hasten along, Flower Hill, Maine. And this is St. James Central. So that is a pictorial of before and after. What does this mean for the community? Safer roads to travel, better connectivity, new water infrastructure. As I said, we're doing integrated infrastructure. And for the main roads, we will not be only addressing the water line and sewer where necessary, but we will also be installing fiber optic ducts to allow for the national broadband program that is being pushed by the government. Local and local economic activities are spurred by the improvement to the network. Every parish is in fact included in the local and community roads. And of course, the process is transparent, as Minister Morgan highlighted earlier. So that in a nutshell is what covers the local and community roads. I'll now use the opportunity to launch the main road aspect of what we are treating with today. Okay, so just to remind us that roads are the backbone of national growth. So why infrastructure project matters? It improves accessibility, drives economic growth, enhances safety and resilience is a buzzword these days. And of course, it improves quality of life. So every road project is an investment in a more connected, resilient, and prosperous Jamaica. The main roads were not selected arbitrarily. We actually selected the main roads based on a data-driven approach. We sat down and spent a lot of time, and by we I mean the government overall, the Works Agency with the ministry, led by our Prime Minister and Minister Morgan and our Permanent Secretary. And we have in fact looked at primarily 4 factors, but we have a number of others that were under consideration. The population that is served by these roads, traffic and mobility demand, access to essential services, and economic and strategic importance. The roads were selected based on their ability to maximize benefits to Jamaicans and improving connectivity, reducing travel delays, and enhancing access to essential services and supporting economic growth. So these were not based on the constituency that they exist in, but were national roads for improvement. So our primary objective was to focus on connectivity and accessibility traffic flow and mobility, and safety and resilience. Just to highlight a few things on the program objective. So help me along here just quickly. Not seeing it from the side. So under connectivity and accessibility, I'm just going to highlight there the objective is to improve linkages between community employment centers and essential services. Under connectivity, and that's under traffic flow and mobility, is to improve the efficiency and reliability of movement along key transportation corridors. And the third one, we focused on safety and network resilience, transform roads to being safer, more resilient corridors that can better serve citizens and withstand future demands. So at a glance, summary of the Spark Road program, the estimated cost based on the improvement that is proposed for this particular component of the Spark program, which is the main roads, and primarily treating with the grade separation for two of the roads that Minister Morgan mentioned earlier. We're looking at a budgeted figure of some 25 billion Jamaican dollars. 37 roads will be improved across the island. And just a slight correction there, while we have 10 parishes, a closer look at it last evening confirmed that it's actually 11 because we are actually going into Negril, which is the part of Westmoreland in Negril. Over 900,000 citizens will be directly benefiting from this. And just to clarify that, how we arrived at this is based on the road that has been selected. We use a approximate 4-kilometer radius to look at the zone of influence, why these numbers came up with. So it's actually data-driven. And we have two grade separation, as I mentioned earlier. So the program at a glance, ladies and gentlemen, we have actually looked at work order 8, which is some 28 roads, work order 10, which is 9 roads, and this is actually for the main roads. You will appreciate then that work orders 1 to 7, as well as work order 9, would have focused on the local and community roads. The estimated cost for these two work orders is some $14 billion. The estimated cost for the two roads in particular that we're treating with grade separation is some $6.88 billion and $4 billion, which is Don Robin Road Extension, which we'll get into a little bit more detail on that, as well as Washington Boulevard, which is between 6 Miles and Mullines Road. And at that point at Mullines Road, we are proposing a similar grade separation like we have at Red Hills Road near Calabar. Here's actually a pictorial that shows you the spread of the main roads across the entire island. And as you can see, my clarification there that in that part of Westmoreland to be included. So there are actually 11 parishes that are directly where these main roads will be done. "37 roads, approximately 170 kilometers that the roads will cover. At this point in time, the contractor is mobilizing for these roads, and our contractor is here, China Harbour Engineering. These are the actual main roads, the list of main roads, ladies and gentlemen. I'll just like for your interest just to cite at least some of them. I think it's very important. Mullines Road, Seaward Drive, which is from Mullines Road going down to Olympic Way towards 3 Miles. We also have Red Hills Road, which is from Perkins Boulevard to Swain Spring. There is Stony Hill Road from Stony Hill Road to Golden Spring. There's Cooper Ridge to Gordon Town to Mavis Bank. There's also Oxford Road. There is Freetown to Forepath to Whitney Turn. There is Spalding to K Valley, Chapelton to Penance, Maypen to Soursop Turn, ending at Woods. There is Hill Run from the Toll Booth to Fellowship Hall. There is Spanish Town Bypass from Twickenham Park Roundabout all the way to Brunswick on the other side. There is also Linstead Bypass from Bogwalk to Vanity Fair. We also have planned Williamsfield to Glengough. There's St. John's, which is Kitson Town Main Road. Then there is also Gregory Park Main Road, which comes from Dyke Road to Grange Lane, that was recently completed. There is part of Port Innocent Road from Bayside to Naggo Head. There is a Salt Pond Road from Brayton to Phoenix Park. There is the Old Harbour to Freetown as well. And we also have Greenvale to Spur Tree, Royal Flat to Caledonia Road, Cane Shop to Highgate Hall, Troy to Warsop, Falmouth to Wakefield Bounty Hall. We also have Claremont to Golden Grove, Brownstown to Stewarttown, Priory to Bamboo, and in St. Mary, Islington to Port Maria, and Chovy to Claremont, Gale to Guys Hill, Howard Cook Boulevard, Alice Eldemeyer Drive, Montego Bay to Great River, North Coast Highway there, covering several sections. I'm just going to highlight for you a few pictorials of what we propose to do. This is Molynes Road as is depicted there. And when we say this, for each of these roads, how the roads are defined, based on the budget that is available, we'll be doing what we call part of the road. Because Molynes Road, as most of you would be aware, extends all the way to Shorthand Road in that particular area. We also have one of the city entrances for this road, which is from Harbour View to the bottom of Mountain View along Sir Florizel Glasspool Avenue, Glasspool Boulevard, to Windward Road there. We also have Stony Hill Road to Golden Spring, and we're just covering about 10 of them here. We're not going through all of them in the interest of time. We also have Cooper Ridge, which is effectively from Papine to Garden Town and just a little bit beyond in St. Andrew. Then there is the Spanish Town Bypass, as was mentioned before. That picture should have extended beyond that, just for clarity. Linstead Bypass, as was mentioned earlier. Howard Cook Boulevard in St. James. We also have part of Hanover there, Great River to Sandy Bay. And we have Green Island to Parish Border. And, of course, Parish Border to Negril in Westmoreland. So, in summary, what we have, as I mentioned before, are 37 roads. So, this here is actually the focus on Washington Boulevard. This is now the western entry into the city. Washington Boulevard road improvement all the way to Molynes Road, where at Molynes Road we will actually have a grade separation there that will allow the traffic to move uninterrupted all the way up to Dunrobin Avenue. And the proposal at Dunrobin Avenue is for a grade separation there as well, leading to East Kings House Road, which we'll show you very shortly. So this is just a pictorial of the Washington Boulevard, 6 miles to Molynes Road, which will include an expansion of the bridge by Pembroke Hall from 2 lanes to 3 lanes. These are just some information Minister Morgan mentioned earlier. The vehicles per day at the junction in question, which is Washington Boulevard, Molynes Road, we're talking 150,000 plus. And just for one direction only, we're talking 76,000. We expect to have no issues there in terms of collision because at that time we'll have a grade separation. This is Dunrobin Road extension, as I mentioned earlier, from Dunrobin Avenue going all the way to East Kings House Road, and we'll show you a depiction of what we're looking at. At this point in time, we're actually at concept design where we'll be discussing with our contractors and consultants with respect to the detailed design so we can get this project moving. The preliminary estimated cost is just under 7 billion Jamaican dollars. And this here is a depiction where we will have a grade separation at Constant Spring Road and Dunrobin Avenue. There's also another grade separation by Upper Waterloo Road with the new road that is actually going through. Sandy Gully area is the area that will be used to carry this road through, so we should not have any land issue as far as that part is concerned. And the Sandy Gully will remain in place. We'll be doing it similar to how we do down by 3 miles, where we will actually have piers spanning over the Sandy Gully. So the gully will still be functional, the road will be significantly above it, and to be able to carry the traffic all the way through. And of course, with this improvement, we are treating with road safety, signage, signalization, traffic improvement, street lighting, among other things, ensure pedestrian crossings for safety movement. So as I mentioned before, the main road component, we're looking at just under 1 million persons being directly affected. And of course, 504,000, we're looking there for daily traffic support. 164 schools, health centers. I just want to make sure I'm saying the right thing. School health centers. because we did look at the impact on schools for every single road. We looked at health centers, and we also look at emergency. We look at emergencies such as police, fire stations, etc. for that. Why this matters to every Jamaican? Faster, more reliable journey for commuters, reduce fuel and vehicle operating costs overall, time saved during commuting, and of course improve access and reduction in time being wasted to get to healthcare and emergency centers. So challenges as to when we are addressing these and how we will do them. Some of the challenges we have, which we all know are weather-related, land acquisition matters, and traffic disruption. Some of the mitigating strategy we have is to program our works with respect to weather patterns to ensure that we maximize when we have good weather. Land acquisition, we are doing early engagement with the critical stakeholders. And for traffic disruption, we will ensure that we program and relate to all the stakeholders, including the police, to assist us as we go about implementing the program. These are just some of the details that I think we went through earlier, so I won't bore you with that anymore. So let me thank you for your time and your patience. Thank you very much, Prime Minister.
Thank you for that informative presentation, Mr. Downer. I think the visual aid is appreciated, and I'm sure that our respective teams will be packaging this so that the rest of Jamaica can also benefit from this information. And just to say that I think that we're turning a corner when it comes on to our information-seeking behavior, so that when projects like these come on stream, we're aware of what they will entail, aware of the conveniences and inconveniences that they may cause, and we can align our expectations accordingly. So thank you again for that. At the risk of sounding a little bit hackneyed, our Prime Minister requires very little introduction, but at this time, I do want to say that you've seen him here, there, and everywhere. He is connecting with Jamaicans at home and abroad. He's ensuring that our national business goes on and that Jamaicans are able to benefit from an improved quality of life. So please join me in welcoming the Prime Minister to address us.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I'm going to start by repeating a directive that I gave earlier, and I'm hoping that our head of protocol is here. So we're doing so many things, and it is necessary that we mark every achievement with some form of ceremony. But it doesn't have to be ceremonial. I hear Minister Grange chuckling a bit. And the reason is that we have so many things to do, we need to get to the next one. So we need to move through them very quickly. So the ceremony is important to mark the event, but it doesn't have to be ceremonial. There's a description of what is a good speech. Some of you know that description. It should be long enough to cover the subject, but short enough to capture your interest. But I prefer the other one, which says a good speech doesn't have to be eternal for it to be immortal. Brevity, that is what we're seeking. So, if we could keep the ceremonies within 1 hour, that would be great. And that I see the director of protocol saying, I am at fault. Because I may speak eternally. Let me acknowledge the members of the cabinet who are here, Ministers Morgan, Mackenzie, Hill, and Grange, our permanent secretary, the head of the NWA and his team, representatives of China Harbour, members of the Ministry of Economic Growth, and Infrastructure Development, and stakeholders all. Everyone, good morning. The SPARK program is a $45 billion infrastructure program. It provides $20 billion for main roads, $16 billion for community roads, and $5 billion for water infrastructure, and $4 billion for engineering, design, consultancy, supervision, and associated costs. This is very important to know. Not all of the road is asphalt and pipes. Much of what we do is about the planning for the road. So even before we put one backhoe on the road, there is a significant volume of work that is done to ensure that the road is done well and will last. In fact, the preparatory works are just as important, if not more important, than the actual implementation and construction. So I want the public to understand that for all the roads that we are doing under the SPARK program, and indeed for any roads, a large part of the budget, or rather a significant part of the budget, goes towards the preparatory work, the engineering, the designs, the environmental studies. Oftentimes we also have to do a business case, an economic case, the traffic studies. All of those things are done. And that, of course, lengthens the implementation for the road. Now, I want to acknowledge directly the frustration caused by the conditions of many roadways in Jamaica. I hear the protests, the calls to the radio stations complaining about your roads. I am in communities all over Jamaica, and one of the topics that persons come to me about, it's about roads. I get many messages and emails and calls, and if I were to categorize them, roads would be a significant complaint. And recently, I saw an article where one of our members of Parliament, Dwayne Smith for Northwest St. Andrew, was tackled by the Citizens Association in his communities about their roads, and rightfully so. There are so many communities with roads that are deteriorating. There's nothing that I say here that any of the residents who are suffering from bad road conditions will take comfort in, because the truth is that the citizens, they don't judge the road program of the government by the contract sign or a lovely ceremony such as this one, or the billions that I am announcing. That's not what they're interested in. What the public is interested in is that when they get up in the morning, they go in their car and they're driving to work, they don't hit a pothole. They want to just drive on a smooth road and back home. And for many of them, the question, is that too much to ask? Is that too much to ask of our government? And then there are those who will say, you know, I've traveled to other places and they all have, you know, smooth roads and good infrastructure. Why can't we? And so I want to say I understand the frustration. But it is not so simple. I know that's not what you want to hear. But road, bridges, hospitals, water systems, sewer systems, they are very complicated and complex undertakings. Not to mention, they are very expensive. Very expensive. But nonetheless, your government has the ambition to deliver to you the carpets that you want, from your home to your work or to whatever endeavor it is and back. The smooth road, because it is a sign of modernity, it's a sign of development, it is part of the quality of life that you experience, and we want you to have the best experience, the best quality of life. And so that is why we have developed this Spark program, which is the first attempt of the government to not just patch roads, but to do mass rehabilitation of roads. And I want to make that distinction. The government can patch roads, and we do patch roads all over Jamaica. But to be fair, a patching program will not bring the road network to the quality that you desire. And what you're seeing happening now is that we are beginning to patch the patches. And the reason for that, friends, is that Jamaica's road infrastructure is aged. This is a very difficult point to make to a citizen who is frustrated by the road that passes their gate. And I give you an example. So, in many of the communities in Northwest St. Andrew, in my own constituency, West Central St. Andrew, in West Kingston, but wherever it is across Jamaica, many of those roads were built more than 50 years ago. In fact, if you were to do a roster of all the roads in Jamaica and put a date as to when those roads were constructed, 90% of the roadways in Jamaica would have been constructed more than 60 years ago. And if we're honest with ourselves and ask, how many of those roads were totally rehabilitated? It would be less than 5%. So the challenge that you're facing now with roads is not just the weather. It's not just, the lack of maintenance or damage done to road by how we use the roads. It is that the asphalt has reached its physical limit. It's just the reality. And even if you were to patch it, that does not solve the problem, because the sub-base of the road has also deteriorated. But there is also another factor. These roads that were designed and built more than 60 years ago were not designed and built for the level of rain and water that they have to carry, for the level of traffic that use them, and for the weight. So I'm not trying to ask for the understanding of the country, right? Because I do understand the frustration. But it is important that when we start to vent about the roads, we also appreciate what the challenge is. Now, you'll never escape politics in the matter of roads. So there is an argument that says there are some roads that you should focus on. So there are some main roads, there are some critical thoroughfares, and there are some roads that people are going to demonstrate for. And so, in other words, the politics can have an impact on the budget allocation. But then the question is, should it be that protests and demonstrations determine how governments plan their road programs? I'm not giving you an answer. I'm just asking you to consider that. Because were that to be the case, then the people who are going to quarrel the loudest and so forth, they may be the ones, but it may not be the economic best decision. It may not be the best strategic decision. I'm saying all of this for the public to appreciate the complexities that your government has to address in dealing with managing roads. So where do we start in managing the road? What is the good news? Where is the hope that our roads will be repaired? What is it? Firstly, we have to improve the governance of our roads, how we manage our roads. My grandfather used to be a superintendent in the whole PWD. And I know that there are many persons from that era who reflect upon the efficiency and good management of the Public Works Department. And for them, the solution is, why don't you go back to the Public Works Department? I have been asked this many times. E.g., don't take it as a criticism of the NWA. But there is a kind of romanticized view of the roads of old and how they were built. And there is some value to that observation in the sense of how roads were administered. So first of all, there were very high standards for road maintenance at the time. There were high standards for road construction at the time, and they were invigilated, they were supervised, they were interrogated. Persons went and looked and checked. But more than that, they maintained a gazette and a register. So they knew all the roads that were built, when they were built, the maintenance schedule could be generated from that, and a fiscal program, meaning a budget could be assigned based upon the projected useful life of the road. Somewhere along the line, that broke down. To the point where, when I asked the question, how many kilometers of roads do we have? Nobody could tell me specifically or exactly. Because there are some roads on a register with the parish councils all over the country. There are some roads that have been built but not taken over by the parish council, so there are orphan roads. There are some roads that are in the Ministry of Agriculture. There are farm roads, and the Ministry of Agriculture doesn't view them as roads. There are some roads that are in housing schemes that were built. Nobody knows of these roads. The NWA maintains a register of about 5,000 kilometers of roads. So the first thing to do is, let's do an inventory of our road assets. And that has been done. It's not complete, it is ongoing. And I am told that we have about between 25 and 27,000 kilometers of roadways in Jamaica. Let's just be clear on what that means. I mean, that's about 16,800 miles of roads. Jamaica's total square kilometers would be about 10,000. About that. 11,000? About 11,000. All right, I'll go with the 11,000. That means that we would have probably the highest density of roadways in the Caribbean. I don't think there's another country that has the density of roadways that we do. Globally, it is said that Japan would have the highest, and Jamaica at some point was number 2. We may have fallen. But for a country our size to have that level of density of roadways, it is significant. And that happened because of our history. The history of the end of the period of enslavement, the rise of free villages, and then the building roads to connect the dispersed population all over the country would mean that we would have built out a very extensive road network, which today, when we have done this survey on all the roads that we have, we really have to start to look at some roads and determine whether or not those roads still carry economic value, whether or not they should still remain on our register of roads. Because it's one thing to have the road there and you're not using it, but yet it is still expected to be maintained. And that is why we have proposed the development of the One Road Authority to return standards to road construction, to return standards to road maintenance, to ensure there is a budget for road maintenance that matches the economic and engineering life of the road, so that there can also be a preventative maintenance program. But more importantly, that there is a regulator and someone who will supervise road construction, road maintenance, and preventative work. And in addition to that, an authority that has the legal powers to prosecute road users who destroy the national public assets in our roads by improper use or deliberate destruction. And that's the whole purpose of the One Road Authority. That is being worked on. I've charged Minister Morgan to have that delivered by early next year. As you know, there is a long process towards establishing an institution, developing the legislation, passing it through Parliament, and getting it done. But I think we can get it done. So if we can address the governance issues as it relates to roads, then I think we would be 50% of the way to seeing how we can repair all our critical roads and bringing them up to the standards that the public would want. So, someone once asked me, what would it take to repair all the roads in Jamaica that would be in need of repair? And I did some back of the envelope calculations. Jamaica's national budget, or last budget, was about 1.4 trillion Jamaican dollars. Just to put that in context, that is $1,000 billion. Right, that's $1 trillion. So, for us to repair, E.G. and Varden tells me that to do a kilometer of road in Jamaica properly, you would be looking at about $120 to $250 million. That is to put in the drains and to put the proper camber and the water mains and to give you a really good first world infrastructure. That's what you're looking at on average. So, if we were to repair, that 21,000 kilometers to the various standards, you're looking at trillions of dollars. In fact, you'd probably be looking at between $5 to $7 trillion. So in other words, we would need to use the national budget for about 5 years and do nothing else. No school, and that includes a pipeline. No school, no hospital, no police, no security, no pension, no public sector workers' salaries, no social programs. All right? So we would have to forego everything for 5 years to make an impact. I'm just saying this for the public to understand the magnitude of the problem that we face. Now, the government isn't trying to run away from it. In fact, I think this is the first administration that is really trying to grapple with all dimensions of this problem and to deal with it in a meaningful way that will actually transform roads. So, the public may not necessarily appreciate, however, that in the last 20 years, the way in which we have managed roads would have changed significantly. Significantly. And I can point out this to you without any fear of contradiction. In the previous decade, so let's say between 2006 to 2016, on average, the government would have spent something like $8 to $20 billion, $8 to $20 billion annually on roads. And that would include some amount of emergency repairs. In the last decade, 2016 to now, the government is spending somewhere in the region of $25 to $75 billion on road repairs. Even if you were to take out inflation, this is still a significant amount of resources that the government is spending on roads. In fact, the government in the last decade has increased spending on roads more than threefolds. But the majority of the public will say, I don't feel it. And that is because of the magnitude of the problem. Let's face it, you know, we have 300 roads under Spark. And if you look at the number of persons who would say, I feel the improvement of Spark, it would be very limited to everyone else who complains about their roadways. And the reason for that is that, one, the Spark program has a community component which is dispersed. It's community roads, so it's the community that is benefiting from the road that would say, yes, my condition has improved. But when they leave the community to go elsewhere, they still encounter bad roads. So all of that is negated. So now we have another element of Spark, which would be the national roads. So the community roads, they take you from your home to the main road. And this program now takes you from the main road to your work, business, or play. It takes you from outside your community into a commercial center or some other critical activity that's needed for your life. And so those roads are what Varden had displayed. Some of them are very interesting and exciting prospects that will ease traffic congestion, that will increase economic activity, and some of them will require some significant engineering, including putting the road on top of the Sandy Gully. Those are some serious engineering, which I would really want to see before any work is done in that regard, because those are serious engineering requirements. But they will certainly improve traffic flow within urban centers right across Jamaica. And as was shown, these projects are all over Jamaica. Now, internationally, most developed countries spend around 1 to 2%, 1.5 to 2% of their GDP on their road infrastructure. Because generally their road infrastructure is mature, they probably only need to do routine maintenance and some amount of new capital works. Jamaica is spending just about 2 to 2.5% of its GDP on roads. If we're going to make an impact, we probably need to be spending more like 3 to 5% of our GDP on roads. But that would be significant, because the question is, what do we cut? It's an interesting prospect, and I've been looking at it to see where else could we divert, or what new allocation we could make to spend on roads. And the answer is, really, there is nothing. We spend about $460 billion on salaries every year. Obviously, that can't be cut. And that's the largest part of the budget. We spend quite a bit on education. We spend on health, national security, debt servicing. That's 15 to 18% of the budget. As I said, public sector compensation, that's about 30% of the budget. You know, grants and pensions and social programs, that's another 15% of the budget. So it's significant, you know, what we spend on all the other things that make Jamaica run. It's quite significant relative to the challenges that we face with roads. So the only way that we're going to have an expanded budget without compromising all the other things that we're doing is for there to be growth in the economy. That's a subject that the people who complain about roads don't always figure. Meaning that it's a balance, right? That if we're going to spend on road, where is the money going to come from? It has to come from somewhere, and it comes from growth, the productivity question. But the good thing about spending on roadways is that it helps productivity. It helps to create growth. And that's why we are making the investment as we are, these massive investments in our roadways, because they increase productivity, which will improve growth, which will give us the funds to reinvest in the infrastructure. So I hope today that I've been a little bit more clear. It's an explanation as to why it is that the roads are the way they are and what the government is doing to ensure that we can address the road conditions in the country. So this program, therefore, will address the main roads. We will begin, we have issued 31 of the roads as work orders, and that means that China Harbour, who is the contractor on the project, will begin to do the preparatory works and then move into actual construction. Some of them could start within a year, others may take up to a year and a half to actually see the works done. But the public should be assured that these programs are now officially launched and in train. As I close, I will say one last thing on roads. For us to be able to fix all the roads in Jamaica, we need contractors who can work at scale. One of the challenges that we're facing with the current Spark program is that we simply just don't have the contracting horsepower to manage all the roads all at once. And the government is contemplating how we can support the development of a contractor class in Jamaica. I mean, I hate to put it that way, but how we can develop the contractor capacity in Jamaica. So, to move away from the notion of the contractor as a one-man operation who is engaged on a short-term basis and operating out of their bag, essentially, to the notion of the contractor who is a corporate entity that is invested with a balance sheet that can fund, finance, and carry the works that they are contracted to undertake, and to move them to a higher level of professional conduct. We do have some contractors who are exhibiting that level of enterprise operations that we require to do this level of operations. But there are some that continually disappoint, and we will have to address that. So that as we move with this large project, with what we're going to be doing under NARA, contractors are a critical partner in our growth and development. So we are working out a policy. We'll come to the country with more details as to how we can support contractors, whether it is through training, access to financing, access to equipment, partnering with other enterprise contractors. But we have to have a framework that develops a kind of new generation of contractors who can assist, who can be the credible partners that we need to carry the infrastructure program. Look, it's not to triple your capital budget is a major thing. And we have seen our fiscal commissioner report that sometimes we can't spend the capital budget because the execution, which is a function of the contractors, is deficient. So it's one thing for us to have the funds. It's another thing to be able to implement. So we have solved the fiscal issues, so we do have the funds. We are tripling the budget, but the implementation is also a challenge. So we are going to have to address that specifically. Ladies and gentlemen, I tried.
So was the speech eternal or immortal, or both? Thank you, Prime Minister, for always educating us, for always contextualizing things for us and helping to deepen our understanding of the kind of complexity that involves or that goes with such a massive infrastructure overall. As you noted, it is not necessarily going to remove the frustration, but it certainly encourages patience and understanding throughout the process. There's a Jamaican proverb that says, howdy, you know it? Howdy and tenki broke no square, which essentially means there is no harm in showing kindness and gratitude. So I have the great pleasure of thanking you all for being such a wonderful audience today and for sharing so much of your valuable time currency with us. We do not take it for granted. And of course, to our partners from the China Harbor Engineering Company, I want to say xie xie and zaijian. Walk good, everybody, and thank you again.